This is the History Lessons Podcast with certified financial planning practitioner Patrick Huey.
These are the times that try men's souls. Well, that's the famous opening line of Thomas Paine's pamphlet, The American Crisis, published on December 19th, 1776, with America on the verge of war. Now, it's very quaint, at least to me, that in the waning days of the 18th century, there was just one American crisis. Here in 2026, 250 years later, let's address the latest one, and that is ongoing combat operations with Iran. Now, when you hear with talk of war with Iran, it doesn't feel like another item in the news cycle. It feels like a serious threat to safety, to global stability, and understandably to your financial future. And many people I talk to are thinking, well, this time's different. I mean, how can markets possibly hold up in a conflict like this? And yet, here are the facts as we know them so far. In the first quarter of 2026, software, the S&P 500's second largest industry, fell almost into bear market territory, down almost 20%. The Supreme Court struck down tariffs, throwing global trade policy back into uncertainty. Oil prices surged roughly 70%. Expectations for Fed policy swung from 2 rate cuts to a coin flip chance of actually hiking rates. And through all of that, the S&P 500 is down about 3% as of this recording. Now, that's not painless, but it's a far cry from the kind of collapse many would have penciled in if you'd have handed them that script ahead of time. So let's start with one simple fact about markets and fear. Since 1970, every time the US stock market has fallen at least 10% from a recent peak, what we call a correction, almost 9 times out of 10, that's 88.89% of the time, the market was higher 1 year later, and higher again 2 years later, and higher still 3 years later. Now, does that make what's happening with Iran any less serious? Obviously not. But it does tell us something important, at least market-wise. Sharp drops, scary headlines, they've usually been temporary interruptions in a longer journey. They're not permanent detours. To put today's anxiety in perspective, it helps to look at what actually happened in some of the most frightening geopolitical moments of the past century. So let's set your Wayback Machine and go back to 1941 and Pearl Harbor. On December 7th, the United States was attacked and suddenly at war. The next trading day, the stock market fell a little over 4%. Over the next few months, it kept sliding from peak to trough. The market was down about 20%, almost a bear market. It took roughly 142 days to hit bottom, and about 10 months, 304 days, to fully recover those losses. At the time, it felt like the world was on fire, because most of it may actually have been. But an investor who stayed put ended up with a positive return of about 3.7% over the 12 months following Pearl Harbor. Painful in the middle, but not catastrophic, at least to the market and the investor in the end. And this is a good time to make clear that we're really just talking about markets and economies. The human cost of war is incalculable. We're really just trying to put into perspective the economic and the financial costs to investors. So let's jump back in that Wayback Machine, and this time go to 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. For nearly 2 weeks, the world held its breath as the US and Soviet Union stared each other down over missiles in Cuba, and people were openly talking about nuclear war. Market's reaction? Well, on the first day, stocks fell about 1/3%, minus 0.31. At the worst point after the crisis began, they were down about 6.7%. The bottom came 8 days in, and 17 days after it started, the market had fully recovered its losses. 1 year after the crisis, stocks were up more than 30%. The fear was existential: nuclear war. The market impact, looking back, was a short-lived dip. A little closer to home, there's September 11th, 2001. The terrorist attacks were shocking and devastating. We all remember that day. And markets actually closed for several days. When they reopened, the S&P 500 fell about 5% just in the first day and went on to lose almost 12% at its worst point in the days that followed. The bottom came 11 days after the attacks. Within about a month, 30 days, the market had climbed back to its pre-attack level. Now, because 9/11 hit in the middle of an already underway bear market after the tech bubble burst, the 1-year return from that date was negative. It was still around minus 13.7%. But again, the long-term story for a diversified investor was not defined by that single event, however terrible it was in human terms. Even closer to today. In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and the headlines were alarming. Many expected an immediate war-driven plunge in U.S. stocks, global stocks. Instead, there was no clear event day collapse specific to the invasion. Markets had already been moving lower in anticipation of higher inflation and rising interest rates. From the day of the invasion, the 1-year return for U.S. stocks was modestly negative, about minus 5.1%. Uncomfortable, but very much in the range of a normal market. In October 2023, Hamas attacked Israel, and conflict in the Middle East escalated again. Human suffering has been immense. Yet in market terms, there was no distinct initial drop tied to the onset of the war. In fact, from the trading day associated with that event, U.S. stocks delivered a roughly 34.9% gain over the following year. The lesson is not that wars or attacks are good for markets. They are not. The lesson is that the relationship between geopolitics and stock prices is far more complex than any headline suggests. Markets are forward-looking. They constantly adjust to new information, and they have time and again found a way to move higher over the medium and long term despite wars, conflicts, and crises. If we step back even further and look at entire war periods, multi-year periods, the pattern becomes even clearer. From 1941 through 1945 and World War II, U.S. stocks returned about 20.1% per year on average. During the Vietnam War, 1965 to 1973, years filled with much more protests, political turmoil, and uncertainty, the annualized return was lower, about 6.5%, but still positive. And during the Iraq War from 2003 to 2011, U.S. stocks delivered roughly a 21.5% year on average. In each case, if you read the newspaper of the time, it would be easy to believe that investing in stocks was reckless. Yet investors who owned broad baskets of companies and stayed invested were, on average, rewarded for their patience. One more way to look at this is to tell the story of a single hypothetical investment. Imagine, again, in your Wayback Machine, putting $10,000 into a simple basket of large U.S. stocks at the end of 1969, and then holding on through everything that followed. The end of the gold standard, the oil shocks, the Middle East wars, the Iranian Revolution, the hostage crisis, the Gulf War, 9/11, invasion of Iraq, the global financial crisis, the rise of ISIS, COVID-19, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and now war with Iran. Well, by the end of 2025, that $10,000 would have grown to roughly $3.5 million before fees and taxes. based on an average annual total return of about 11%. So the journey includes all the moments when it felt like this time is different, including previous confrontations in and around Iran. Yet the long-term outcome for a patient investor was extraordinary growth. None of this is meant to predict exactly how conflict with Iran will unfold or how markets will react day by day. We don't know that. And anyone who tells you they do is guessing. But what we do know is this. Historically, sharp market drops have been followed by recoveries in the vast majority of cases. In almost 89% of corrections, markets were higher 1, 2, and 3 years after the low. Historically, major wars and geopolitical shocks, while frightening, have not automatically translated into permanently poor long-term returns for diversified stock investors. And historically, the investors who have come through these periods in the best shape were not the ones who successfully jumped in and out around each headline, but the ones who had a sensible plan and an appropriate level of risk. Oh, and the discipline to stick with it. So if talk of war in Iran has you lying awake at night, that reaction is very human. The answer, at least financially, is not to try to outguess the next move on the world stage. The answer is to make sure your portfolio is aligned with your goals and your tolerance for volatility, knowing that wars, recessions, and crises are part of the landscape over a long investing life. We cannot control geopolitics. We can control how much risk we take, how diversified we are, how consistently we save, and how we respond when markets become volatile. History tells us that volatility has always been part of the journey. For investors with a solid plan and a long-term perspective, it's not the final destination, even in times of war.